Good morning. We'd like to welcome everybody to the WAGD Stay Home, Stay Healthy CE series. We've got a few minutes before Dr. Rasner will begin his presentation. I invite you to take a good look at the slides that are you're seeing across your screen. We've got some great speakers coming up this week. We actually have 11 more webinars this week alone. So tomorrow's a big day. We've got Kevin Quechin speaking. We've got Judy K. Massoff, and that's on Tuesday. Today, CD verification will be emailed to you within a couple of days. Please save a copy of that for your records. If you are an AGD member, your CE credits will be uploaded to the AGD automatically for you, but that process could take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So please don't be firing off an email or text asking us where your CE is. It will take the AGD a while to upload that. Today, we want to thank all our sponsors that are helping support this webinar series. The University of Washington School of Dentistry CE is our major partner. We also have Comet USA, Seattle King County Dental Society, Pierce County Dental Society, Snohomish County Dental Society, the Canadian Academy of Restorative Dentists and Prosthodontics also are one of our sponsors, as is Patterson Dental. So thank you very much to all our various sponsors out there. You'll notice that we do have some additional sponsors on Dr. Yassine's course, and we'd like to thank those sponsors as well. You'll notice that there's QR codes on upcoming webinar slides, so you can use those QR codes to get to the website to get registered for these upcoming CE events. So we've got a few minutes to go here. We're just going to let the slides play for a minute, and then I'll go through the logistics again with you. Just a reminder that all of this CE is coming to you as a benefit for being a member of the Academy of General Dentistry. This is your membership dollars at work. So thank you very much to everybody that's helped support putting this webinar series together. We appreciate it. Please, if you're not an AGD member, you may want to consider becoming an AGD member. Again, use the QR code. That will help navigate to the Academy of General Dentistry, the login and the registration page. Okay, it's 10 o'clock, so we'll get rolling here with our webinar in just a couple of minutes. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Stephen Rasner. He's been a great friend of the Washington Academy of General Dentistry for many, many years. We're pleased that he was able to donate his time. All our speakers that are presenting for our Washington Academy of General Dentistry Stay Home, Stay Healthy CE series have donated their time, and we appreciate that. This is really nice that we can bring you this quality CE. Again, your major sponsors, the Washington Academy of General Dentistry, the University of Washington School of Dentistry, Comet USA, Canadian Academy of Restorative Dentists and Prosthodontics. We have our Pierce County Dental Society, Seattle King County Dental Society, and Snohomish County Dental Societies, as well as Patterson Dental. Please keep your eyes on the slides that are going by. You'll see our upcoming webinars this week. We've got 11 more webinars to go this week. So there's a lot of great content for both dentists and staff members. So we look forward to spending some more time with you. We are going to submit your CE to the Academy of General Dentistry. Those credits should be credited within 2 to 4 weeks. Everybody will be receiving an email with a paper verification of your CE today. So you should be seeing that in your email box in approximately 1 or 2 days. Please, today, if you have a question for Dr. Rasner, would you type it in the Q&A section, not the chat function? Again, use that Q&A function, and we will bring those questions to Dr. Rasner when it's appropriate to do so, if there's a break in his presentation, or we'll wait to the end and go through those questions. With that, I'd like to stop sharing my screen here, Dr. Rasner, and let you share your screen. Again, please help us welcome, I guess you can't really hear any applause, Dr. Rasner, but I'm sure people are clapping at home there. And we are so looking forward to the CE that you're going to do for us at the end of August there as well. So Dr. Rasner, welcome.
I will share. Thank you very much, Tim. Hi, everybody. I'll share my screen momentarily. You can hear me, correct?
We can hear you, yep.
Okay. Let me start out by saying this to you guys. And, you know, to me, it feels like these times we're going through are somewhere between surreal and fictional, right? One thing that isn't fictional is this is unprecedented. And I say that to you because when colleagues of mine like you tune in for just a few minutes or for the whole hour, it becomes doubly important to me that anything I offer you during this time does you no harm. And there are many, many opinions being floated around out there. You know, so for starters, proceed with caution because we're getting a lot of input from a lot of sources. That's my number one piece of advice. And I'll give you an example. PPEs. Is it just me or you guys getting inundated with social media suggestions and even from supply companies as to what we should be accumulating right now when we return? And I would tell you that these things are pretty expensive because I've looked into them. I'm going to tell you, I'm not buying into that quite yet. I'm not saying, make it clear, that we're not going to need a number of PPEs that we weren't used to as part of our really daily practice. But my present theory is that this is going to evolve in the next 4 to 6 weeks through testing, whether it's antibody test or whatever. And I'm not trying to be an epidemiologist. I just can't foresee in my mind that, let me share with you now. Can you guys see me at this point?
We can see you.
Okay. I just can't envision a situation where we are donning this gear that takes us 30 minutes to put on to see a patient that could be for 15 minutes for a suture removal and then redon the gear for the next patient. That's just my opinion. And because of that, I wouldn't tell you that I think it would be a mistake right now to start accumulating all the, I know that sounds radical, but that's my first piece of advice. I'm going to wait and see what plays out in the next couple weeks. So remember, as I speak to you today, this is really one colleague's opinion, how he's navigating through all this before we go back. And I have very important principles that I think will help you when we do go back. And I'm talking specifically a lot about how you're going to treatment plan patients. How are you going to look at patients, and how do I think you have to look at them? And I think you might find it surprising and very, very helpful if you follow the steps. And I want to tell you, my past is that I have been doing this for 40 years. And I've never been through a pandemic, obviously, but I've been through 4 serious recessions. And I was pretty bulletproof through all of them. So I've got good intuitive instinct as to what you should do and not do, in my opinion. I agree, this is way different, but I trust my moves, and some of you, I'm sure, will be able to trust them as well. I want to, before I put up my slides, I want to say to all of you, you should take solace at some point this week that you are part of the Washington AGD, and they don't know that I'm saying this to you. I mean, it's like, to me, like you're playing for the New York Yankees. I mean, I've been a speaker for 22 years. I'm involved with a lot of state AGDs. I'm involved with the national AGDs. I'm a big proponent of organized education. And you got the gold standard there in Washington. How they're dealing with this. I mean, I'm proud to be a part of your organization. And I can tell you that other speakers are too. So don't take it for granted, because it's not like that in every state. I think every state wants to be like that, but it's not. So you got a good team there, from Dr. Hess to Valerie to Gary Hayamoto and probably 20 other names that I don't know. But I've been a part of your organization strongly now for about 5 years, and my intent's to come out there next August and do my extraction. That's, you know, I'll tell you the funny thing about me speaking today. My first 10 years of my 22 years was this stuff, like how to overcome obstacles, how to navigate through it. It was hard being a dentist before this, in my opinion. Right? So, you know, now it's just gotten exponentially more difficult, but I'm going to tell you, it's not over. It's not even close to over. So be happy, for starters, that you have the organization that you have. So let me get on with this. Can you guys see this? Can I see that, Tim? My slides?
Nope, we don't have it there yet. So go ahead and share your screen. The
Okay.
green button there.
Did. Hold on, guys. I got it. Should come up now. How about now?
You're good to go.
We good?
You bet. Thank you, sir.
All right, so this is Steve Rasner. Any of you that have heard me speak out in Washington or saw me other places, I think you would say that I try to keep it real. So this is my opinion on how we're getting through this. There's a lot of funny things online. I thought this is pretty funny. I miss the days when we were terrified by romaine lettuce. Listen, I want to get serious with you. And I want you to think about, because I thought about what I put up in front of you today before I started. There isn't one industry in the world, whether it's physicians, lawyers, or us, that some of you aren't going to set the standard for what everybody else should do. So one of the things I would tell you to think about doing is, why should that not be you? I don't care if you have an office of 3 in Bellevue, Washington, or wherever you're out in Montana, wherever you're listening to, or you have an office of 30. Why not you be the new protocol for how you're going to get through this and come back from this? And also understand that the major deterrent, even before this happened, to where you go from here is the stories we tell ourselves. And God knows We have too much time right now to think to ourselves about the fears and limits as to why we aren't where we need to be or why we can't overcome this horrific thing that the world is going through. I'm intrepid about being too rah-rah with you today, but I promise you, I'm not even close to being done practicing. And I'm 65 years old, and I've done this for 39 years. So, listen, there's probably some 65-year-olds that you know that are about to retire. So I think their approach to this pandemic is going to be different than mine. I don't want to retire. I love what I had, and I'm going to fight to get it back. And I know a lot of you love what you had. So that's where you start. This isn't over by any stretch. And we're not going to end up like in toxic spacesuits on every patient for the rest of our careers. That's just not how it's going to play. It's my opinion, but I feel very confident in sharing that with you. Here's where you start. You got to go back to where you started to open up that practice that you're trying to protect right now. And that started with hard work and perseverance. I'm not pretending this is going to be easy for us. It's not going to be easy, but it isn't close to being over. So don't waste time in thinking that it's over. What can we do about it? Here's some quick contact information for you. You're definitely going to want to write down those two things, particularly my email, Dr. Rasner. That's my personal email. Why do I want you to write it down? So I can sell you stuff? No, I got nothing to sell you. I want you to write it down because there'll be things that you're going to want me to send you from this. I'll even send you the slide program. I understand there's several hundred listening, so my administrator might kill me for saying that to you. But if it helps you, why else would I be doing this? So if you have anything that I bring up in this next section that you want to hear, write to me at drrasner@aol.com. Yes, and I know that's laughable that it's AOL.com, but that's the only real ancient part of my thinking. And I do have a podcast called The Lion-Hearted Dentist, and I go over a lot of these concepts I'm sharing with you. Remember, these concepts are just me, like one of you. This is what I'm doing over here in Southern New Jersey on the East Coast to get through all this from everything I'm about to tell you. So a lot of the things, it's funny, Tim and Gary and Valerie, when I put this together, I looked at a lot of my old school principles that are coming back to help me now. So some of them I'm going to revisit with you. And this is one of them. Now remember what I'm telling you. I'm telling you what I would do right now and when they reopen us to get it going back to as optimal levels as possible. You know, in my old presentations, I always would profess to my audiences that you have a special connection between the people that make your business run, like your banker, like the equipment repair guy, the supply company guy that comes into your office, the UPS and FedEx men. And what am I talking about? Maybe this is true for all of you, but I can tell you I was on the phone and texting with my banker, and I have a banker of a big bank, BB&T, with all the loans that have been and the stimulus packages. He was very familiar with who I am, because this is a good way for you to do business going forward when we get back. You know, we're so consumed with the daily things that we get consumed with as dentists that it's very easy for us to overlook the relationships with key people that make your days really smooth. I don't think there's a day in my 39 years that I waited for a chair to be repaired more than a morning, because I'll tell you why. There's a very easy thing for you to take care of. Whoever repairs your chairs, or if you need a new ventilation system installed, or you want a price on it, make sure that you pay your repairman, which is easier said than done right now, the day they come in to work on whatever you have them do. because most dentists put them on the back burner for some reason, almost treat them with a lack of respect. And it's very few dentists that will go out of the way and say to the repairman, hey, I just want to make it clear to you that when we do business, you take an extra 10 minutes when you're here, make me an invoice and I'll pay you on the spot. And that may not seem like a lot right this second and during the pandemic, but during these times of my business going forward and in the past, I can get almost anybody that makes my place run within 5 minutes with a phone call, because out of respect, how I deal with them, everything. So just an old school principle. All right, what should you be doing right now? One thing I got to tell you, and I know there's a plethora of information on leadership. All I'm going to tell you is you can't be halfway in it. And I realize, like you guys do, that when you wake up in the morning and re-snap your fingers and realize what we're going through, that the last thing you feel like is that you have enough energy to reach out to your staff members or your patients or whatever. You have to do it. That's the price you have to pay to stay viable a month from now when we're back in play. And I'm going to tell you specifically how to do that, which is why I gave you my email a few minutes ago. Leadership isn't disappearing and feeling sad. And you can feel all those things, but you got people that you're responsible, whether you have a team of 3 or you have a team of 300. You got to be visible right now. Whether it's not your personality, I don't care. Make it your personality right now. It's important. So, number 1, you can see my slides, right, Tim? Everything's okay. Be crystal clear about their money. I want to tell you, I'm going to give you my own experiences as I'm talking about this. Listen, I don't know what others think. It's embarrassing for me to have furloughed my team a couple weeks ago and have them collect unemployment. It wasn't what I wanted. But I didn't make them wonder about it for more than a day. They knew from the beginning that's what we were going to do for now, until I realized the details, which I still don't know, of the payroll protection plans and all that. I want to tell you that this morning, before I met with you, I had a meeting to bring them up to date and told them I still don't have enough detail as to how that's going to impact us to whether I can put my team on payroll protection plans now or 4 weeks from now. And that's the truth, which is actually part of being a leader. You got to tell the truth. And my staff knows I'm telling the truth, as should yours. What you don't want to do, let me give you an example. I have a colleague who's a dentist as an associate for an organization that has about 150 employees. And he still doesn't know how they're getting paid. Nothing's been talked about. You can't do that. It may not be what they want to hear. Maybe they want to hear that you're going to use a stimulus package, but you have to tell them so they know where they stand. I communicate weekly through emails or phone calls with my team, and I give them the State of the Union. I do that once a week. I would suggest you do the same, even if it's a 5-minute call and that there's been no changes. Don't be invisible. I know it's not comfortable for some of you. You have to do it right now. You have to fight for what you fought for to get from the beginning. Listen, you're talking to a guy that had 29 consecutive years of increased growth and profitability, to be honest, in my career. Think about that. That's almost 30 years in consecutive that I had at one time. And I only was off for 3 years. And that was the recession of 2008. That did affect me. And we did come back from that. And we've had 9 years in a row. So I know something. And my team's been with me for 20.2 years on average. And that's 23 staff members. So I don't always feel like communicating right now through emails or phone calls, but you have to do it. And my managers, it's every day with support that they might need and direction. I don't know how popular this slide's going to be, but I would say right now it's a good time for the team to ask what they can do for their office, not what their office can do for them. So you got to think big term, guys. This is a big deal. And the doctor can't fix all this himself. He indeed needs to enlist the team to help reach out, as I'm about to ask you to do. So this is probably the most specific thing that I've done, that you can email me and I will send you out today or tomorrow. Literally, first, just two things we did is the letter and email we sent all of our patients. And this was done about 3 weeks ago, and it was followed up with a new one that brings them up to date. And basically I'm telling our patients that we're here for them, that, nothing profound here, just that when we get the green light, that we will exceed, which is the operative word, whatever ADA and CDC regulations are, and they can feel safe with us. And more importantly, and this is going to get to my treatment planning in a few minutes, more importantly, that we will proceed at whatever pace they're comfortable with when they're ready to resume their dental care. You don't want, look, I have a very high comprehensive care oriented practice, which means, and some of you do too. So that means when patients come in for a broken tooth, we look at the whole mouth, because I'm trained to believe that's the best way to offer treatment plans. How can you possibly do it any other way? And I don't intend to change that. However, what is going to change is I need to be, and you need to be, open to alternative treatments that, because they're going to be impacted by two things, and I'll get to that. They're going to be impacted by finances. It'd be naive for you to think otherwise. And so you might be doing restorations that would have been crowns, and you might be extracting teeth that maybe would have been a root canal or had crown lengthening. And you may not be replacing teeth immediately with an implant or conventional bridge work. And I think it's really an unbelievably important part of you returning to have in your mind the proper and alternative treatments and attitude that you may need to have. So let me tell you also about our patient reach out program. I enlisted, well, I'll tell you what, several of my staff members during the times I reached out said, is there anything that we can do? Now, remind you, they're on unemployment. And this is for any team members listening. And this isn't, I'm not suggesting this is profound. I'm suggesting this is an unprecedented time for all of us and requires unprecedented action. And so I have my 4 hygienists on their own, dedicating somewhere between 1 to 4 hours a week, calling our patients with the verbiage you see on the screen right now that I will gladly send you. All you got to tell me at the end of this podcast is, please send me the stuff. Okay. And I'll send you whatever's relevant from this podcast, and you can modify it for your own. But they're basically saying to patients, we're not, I want to make it clear, we're not trying to even reschedule them right now, which I am deliberately doing, which means I'm going to have a whole lot more work to do 4 to 6 weeks from now. But I don't think your patients' minds right now, most of them, are at a place where they want to think that you called for any other reason except, if you really want to be honest, that they're family. They're part of your family. They're part of your community. and you're just checking in and saying hi, just like you do with your real family. I'm not even instructing my team members to tentatively reschedule them for mid-June or whatever. I know that's going to be a lot more work a month or two from now. I get it. I think that's going to be worth the price, because here's the thing that's not going to change, man. Your patients are going to forever remember whatever actions that you're having right now going forward. And I've seen a lot on social media. I've seen, and I'm not saying you're wrong to reschedule them. I am deliberately wanting this call to be dedicated to a good vibe. Hey, we're just checking, because they hang up the phone. They're not going to be able to say, I had any agenda of trying to keep them in the schedule. And you could argue that's silly or naive on my part. I would say right now, to me, it's good business. Ironically, it's good business. It's embedding in that patient that we really do care about them. And I had no other agenda but to reach out. Now, my staff is doing that. I mean, I have a patient base of thousands, because I've been a dentist for 40 years. If you have a patient base of a couple hundred, 500 or 1,000, and I'm not saying we're getting every patient. We're starting with the patients in the last 6 months, and then we're moving behind that. I think it's a critical moment for you to do. And it's an unbelievable team for real, in the spirit of what team really means. And this is the letter. I don't expect you to look at this right now, but this is the letter I'll send you. If you haven't sent such a letter that we sent 3 weeks ago to our patients, you have to be communicating with your patients right now, besides just trying to reschedule the broken appointments that are coming up because of what we're all going through. So I call this the patient reach out program, composed of two things: an email to my patients every few weeks. It can be a half a page long, and a consistent weekly phone call campaign. And by the way, it's completely voluntary to my hygienist. I actually think, and I think your team members will think the same, that it's something they can do right now to help in the long term. Why would you not want to do that? In terms of what you should be doing with your time on CE at home, where you're doing it right now, I don't want to spend a lot of time with that, but I would be remiss to say that any of you that know me know that I think the best skill that you can own, which isn't really a skill, it's a permit, is a permit in oral sedation. And if any of the requirements in the state of Washington, Montana, Oregon, or anybody listening in can be achieved online, this will be a good time to do that. Ask me for my oral sedation protocol or just tell me to send you the stuff, and you'll see why this is the biggest single game changer you'll ever be able to implement and assimilate into your practice when you get back. It's beyond the scope of the time we have today, but I'll tell you this about oral sedation. And I'm going to give you my oral sedation. I'm going to go back to this. There's my oral sedation. And don't use that without checking with your board of dentistry, because you can't. You have to have a permit to give those drugs. But most people are not familiar with that protocol. And I will tell you, it's unbelievable. It is 22 years of me using this daily, multiple times, without one incident ever. Not one I can give you of a foul, awkward, I had to call 911. Never even, I've called 911 for other things, never for this protocol. So if there's one thing, and it's got a low learning curve to begin with, you can market the heck out of it beyond anything else you do. You know why? I'm going to tell you why. Over anything else you do, like let's talk about the obvious. Like, why not put all your efforts just into aesthetics and skip this? Because even when you do the most aesthetic case you've ever done, a lot of people don't want to tell other people that they spent $10,000, $20,000 on their smile. It's a human thing. They want people to just notice that they look better. But everybody in the world likes to tell somebody that they go to a dentist that doesn't hurt. And by the way, you can sleep through the visits. And I'm going to tell you something. It's got a 98% effective protocol. In other words, there's almost no one you'll give that combination to that it won't work on. Now, you need my full protocol. That's obvious. Everything I'm offering you is free. The only thing you're giving me is your email. And I have courses I give. I'm sure you'll get notices on those. That's not why I'm giving it to you. I'm trying to help you. But I will send you my sedation protocol. Okay. Oops, wrong way. So let me just say this as I'm talking to you about when we go back. From my pre-pandemic lectures, I've always advocated that you guys create a giant practice nucleus. And the best way to do that simply is to retain patients that come to you, that have a protocol for your process of presenting recommended cases, to that if they don't accept your recommended case, to how you make them feel when they leave your office. Because I can tell you that my nucleus is so large, and some of yours is equally large, that in the post-pandemic terror that people are going through right now, I can tell you from the people that are canceling my appointments for me right now, that I could have a full schedule, because in my community of patients is large enough that there's people on the left that are fearful, that may never go back to a dentist. There's people in the middle that will seek treatment in emergent situations, or maybe even beyond just emergencies. And there's patients I have in this large community, which I believe you do too, that are like Marines and would come in for treatment right now. I can tell you this is absolutely the truth in my practice, and I'm certainly yours too. So it's not going to be that you go back and nobody's going to call you. Your practice is a community made up of different types of people. And so you have to be prepared when you go back how to deal with them. Be sure that once we have a date, and that's going to happen, the first thing I'm going to do is communicate to my staff that my goal is to fully resume with everybody, just like we were before, but it may require a staged return to the office, depending on what the response is to these phone calls. And remember what I just told you. Be prepared, because you're going to get people from day one, because people are different in a community, and your practice is a community, that are going to be fine coming in right from day one. I think hygiene will be affected the most. But let's talk about, all I'm telling you in this slide is that I'm going to be as honest and open as possible with my staff. I'm hoping we have enough people to bring everybody back day one. And I think you need to let them know the expectation's the same. Some new rules in town. Once you're open, this may seem not important to you. I'm telling you, I will implement this. I used to let my staff answer the phone by the third ring. They need to know right away that you're open. And so in my office, the phone's going to be answered by the second ring. You need to return the call within the hour. Embrace this protocol. If you don't have the answer to someone that does call you, don't make them wait all day. People are not going to be in the mood to hear online tapes. When you go back, you're going to kind of have to go back as if it was the first time you opened up your practice. Do you remember those times? Because I do. You would answer the phone on the first, second, or third ring at the worst. You would call people back in a New York second within the hour because you needed every new patient that called you. This is everything, guys. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is what I'm going to be training my staff in. Try to stay away, even if it's temporary, from having phone answering machines answer your messages, even if you have to bring in somebody temporarily.
You have reached the offices of...
Learn the value of protocols now more than ever. So one of the things I'm going to advocate you do, whether it's on the phone or I believe it's going to be in person by that time, everybody has to understand, everyone does, whether you bring back 20% of your staff initially or 100%, like I know you will eventually. What are the new protocols? How are we going to bring people in? I can tell you that I've been in my office one time since this happened for emergencies. And they were emergencies. All suture removals, all that kind of stuff. And I followed the protocols. There's many, many online, from Washington AGD to the ADA. We had people wait in the office. I don't want to use this form to tell you exactly how to do it. Excuse me, we had them wait in their car. We prepared the room. We brought them in. We took their temperature at the door. We asked the screening questions over the phone. We brought them back with a mask and gloves on. The patient had a mask and gloves on. And of course, we were prepared. But your team doesn't have as much invested as you do on every level. So they need you to take the time to tell them what the new protocols are going to be. And I don't know what they're going to be right now. I already told you, I don't think it's going to end up being full body suits. But remember this, and you're going to hear this with every remaining minute I give you. Keep the core principle of trust, that they can trust you in everything you do. So the screening and how we enter the office protocols, that's one of the things you'll talk about. And you can't fake we care. You have to, your person talking to these patients for the first time in months to reschedule them, have to know their names, have to know their families' names. And I have that, and I believe you have a key staff member that knows that too. How are they really doing? Remember, we've already accounted for part of this if you follow my reach out program. So the flow of trust, I mean, it sounds like just fancy words, but think about it for a minute. Patients are going to take a leap of faith about 6 weeks from now or sooner, and they're going to call your office, and you are on stage, man. Are they going to leave and feel good about the experience? And a lot of that comes down to two things. Do they trust your PPE protocols? I mean, I don't know what they're going to be. I'm hoping it comes down, as I've said, to a series of tests that aren't even available right now that make 15 or 10-minute decisions on maybe they had it already or they certainly don't have it now. I'm not the expert on that, but I am following that daily. I tried to buy, by the way, just so you know, I walk my talk. I tried to buy the Abbott machine. They won't sell it to somebody like me because I'm not a center, but I tried. So post-pandemic treatment planning, and this is huge. I would advise you to go back to that first year in practice and err on the side of being conservative. This does not mean that I'm not going to do comprehensive exams, because I don't care if you're in a pandemic or before the pandemic, you can't responsibly recommend treatment without knowing the patient's entire mouth. You just have to do that. That being said, I expect huger mountains for me to climb, and I'm not going to climb them that hard. I am willing to gear myself down initially. And we all have that skill set that we can read patients to some degree. If somebody walks in and says, I've had it with this upper right quadrant of my mouth, pandemic or no pandemic, what can you do for me or my aesthetics. And I do believe that those patients will still exist. They just won't exist in the abundance that were there back in 2019. They need to leave and believe that you're not desperate. I'm going to tell you, you're talking to a guy that originally was asked to speak because I had a very productive practice. My practice does millions a year as a solo practice, and I am prepared to gear it down. I am not going to go in. I'm going to go in at a level that makes them comfortable. So think about the first contact when that patient comes in. How prepared is the staff? That's going to happen through pre-opening meetings that you have, either by, like we're doing right now, or in person. Is that patient distracted at all by what they feel is unsafe practices? And the rest of it is positive karma. People make up their minds about you in a tenth of a second. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to examine with the intention of being conservative, yet responsible. But all those of you that have seen me before, and if you go to my podcast, you'll be able to see that I have an arena of 5 areas of the mouth I look at that I approach the patient with that make it very, patient understands why I take this approach to them. Basically, I tell patients how I figure out what they need is by following a philosophy that I call what to do when. I don't go in and say, the only way for me to tell you what to do is to do a comprehensive exam. I explain to them that the mouth is unlike any other part of the body, that if you have a temperature, you don't need a physician to tell you have a temperature, right? If you have a skin rash, we all know we have a skin rash, but the mouth can have pathology, certainly periodontal pathology and periapical pathology, and it doesn't have to be symptomatic. And because of that, the only way I can tell them to do anything about this tooth that broke today, or this tooth that's giving them pain today, the only responsible way is to look at the rest of their mouth. If that's not coming across clear to you, let's say the lower right tooth needed a root canal and maybe a crown to save from the symptoms they were having. Wouldn't that patient want to know if they had any other caries, or they had other things going on in their mouth that warranted a priority, even though they weren't symptomatic? Maybe the patient has limited funds to pay for whatever they need, which could be a very real, tangible fact when we get back. Listen, I don't want you to get bummed out, because I know that a year from now or way less, I'm going to be up full running the way I always have been. And so are you. I'm just positive of it. I don't know what it's going to be like going through it, but I think one of the worst things you could do right now is pretend this didn't happen, and also change your diagnostic protocols. I don't think you need to change that. I think what you need to be prepared for, and I know I'm being redundant because it's that important to me, is maybe we're going to have to change some of our recommendations. So just so you can see, if you see it on the screen, these are the 5 arenas I tell them I'm going to look at. And so when I'm telling my patients, and again, I have these in 30 and 45-minute podcasts, that how I know what to do when, this is what I tell the patient. Let me just give you this, is by looking at first the health of your gums. And I explain to them that 30% of the American public has no teeth in one arch. And most of that is secondary to gum disease, because gum disease generally doesn't hurt. And it's a waste of time and money to put money and investment in aesthetics or a single unit of crown and bridge if it's in a sea of inflammation. I look at all their teeth so we can put out fires early on. I look at their missing teeth and let them know if that's an issue, the health of their joints and muscles, and lastly, aesthetics. And that's the general parameters of my comprehensive exams. So I'm going to continue to do that. It doesn't mean I'll get the same level of interest day one back from the post-pandemic. It's going to be what it's going to be. So when I talk about prepare for alternate solutions, I suspect that I may do a large restoration. Now, this is important. I would never recommend you do any procedure that's less expensive just because if you think the patient would be worse off. I mean, if it truly needs a crown, then it truly needs a crown. But we all know there are borderline situations where they might have to get by with a large restoration for now. I'm asking you and telling you that I intend to be more sensitive to that. Is it going to be a root canal every time when we get back? Or is there going to be an extraction sometimes? I'm hoping not. But I think you have to be prepared for this. And certainly, there could be some extractions without immediate implant placement. Again, I'm not advocating this type of treatment. I'm just prepared, and I think you should be prepared that a lot of your patients have been impacted incredibly negatively from this. I wouldn't hesitate to dissuade your patient if the right treatment plan isn't possible due to finances. So what about the patient that comes to you in 5 months that has a lower atrophic mandible and just wants a new denture, but you know that's really not going to change things? I would dissuade them until things get better. If you really think it needs an implant retained prosthesis, I would dissuade them if you think it's going to be a waste of their money. I would also advocate to you that is there ever a time for you to know the treatment plan and proceed on day one, people's time is going to feel more valuable than ever to them once we get back and running. Can you imagine? When we get back up and people go back to their jobs, going to a lot of places like the dentist may not be as high up on their priority as it was a year ago. Also, you have to draw lines in the sand. I've been telling you, you may have to make alternative treatment plans. Well, I think you are going to have to make alternative treatment plans. I also think you have to draw lines in the sand. So about what you won't do. So let me give you examples. A line in the sand for my practice is if somebody needed a crown on number 30, or even a large restoration, and they refuse to treat obvious periodontal needs, I'm not violating that. There's certain things I just won't do. A refusal to treat periapical pathology. A patient that signs up for quadrant scaling and root planing, but won't commit to a 3 or 4 month recall program. I guess the truth is you have to be as upfront and crystal clear as you've ever been. And look, I know a lot of you guys know everything I'm telling you. I don't pretend that this is profound, brand new information, but you need to hear from one of your colleagues that's been pretty durable in the last 40 years. How we get through, how I'm getting it. Am I getting feedback there? You okay?
Yeah, we're looking good. Go ahead, Dr. Rasner.
Okay. So I'm going to close with this. Then if anybody has questions, I'm here. If you're ever going to make follow-up calls, it starts when we reopen the next day. It can be 2-minute phone call, just following up on you. Were you comfortable in the office? How do we do? Are you okay? Just like you did 5, 10, 15 years ago when you started. I think that's where I'm coming from to you. And I know it's not sexy. I know. And one other thing, why, before I forget the thought, I don't think now is the time, and this may sound controversial. Should I go to my face at this point? Can I do that? Does it matter?
Sure, feel
Nope.
free to. Just stop sharing your screen.
Stop sharing.
Yeah. There you go.
You see me now?
You bet.
So, okay. So I don't think this is the time, and this is how I really feel. I'll give you an examples. I don't think this is the time, if you can make it through the next couple months, to be thinking how to capitalize on revenues from your existing office. So what I mean by that is this. This is my opinion. I'm really not interested in the coding that's available for teledentistry right now. I'm not trying to get patients to give them a discount to pay their bill off right now or reduce it. I think that's a mistake. I don't even, an emergency dental care, the one day I went in for emergencies, I didn't even bring up fees. And I wouldn't even bring it up during this next month. I know that may sound radical to you. I am thinking long-term. I am thinking your patients are going to remember you more than ever. Your office, every move you're making. And I think they're going to remember that you weren't trying to squeeze $5 out of them more. It doesn't mean they don't owe you the bills they owe you. We're billing people, just like we did before. But I'm not offering any incentives. I'm not trying to get to the office to crank out a couple emergencies that might give me a few shekels here and there. I don't think that's the time for this right now. I think the time is to be real with your patients and think long term, because you are going to be back. I'm going to be back for sure. And there's no way the people that follow me over the years, that follow my kind of thinking, because it extends into my everyday practice pre-pandemic anyway. Trust and confidence is what your patients need before the pandemic and after it. They need to trust that they're safe now. That's a new thing. And feel safe with your protocols. And they need to trust that given their specific financial situation, and maybe some of them will be fine, good, but you're willing to be flexible and treat them within the parameters that you think will do them no harm. Any questions? We good?
Okay, Dr. Rasner, we just lost Dr. Hess, so give him just a second. I'm going to go ahead and field your first question.
I can go on as long as you want me to, by the way. So go ahead.
Great, thank you. Dr. David Cho's asking, what are your thoughts of oral sedation versus IV sedation? I currently provide oral sedation and combination therapy with nitrous oxide, but I'm looking to getting my IV license. Do you think it would be worth it?
And that was Dr. who?
Dr. David Cho.
Hey, Dave, I have a very specific reply to that. So I'm privileged as a speaker to have done a lot of different venues over the years, including speaking for a number of nationally known oral surgery groups, guys that you know, like Mike Picos. And I tell them that if I was an oral surgeon, I would advertise enteral sedation, oral sedation, not IV sedation, because everybody knows you can get that. Here's why. There is a segment of the population, probably now more than ever, by the way, that are scared of IV sedation. And I will tell you that if you get permitted by whatever state you're in and try the protocol you saw on the screen, and don't forget to write to me because there's an extensive protocol, you're going to be flabbergasted. Listen, when I got out of the Mish Institute 25 years ago, I did IV sedate patients. And I switched over, I don't remember how it happened, to the protocol I shared with you, and it's profoundly effective. There are limits to it, but not many. Like I wouldn't do a Ramus graft with oral sedation, but I've done sinus lifts, all the other bone grafting, full mouth extractions. I would highly recommend that you try out the protocol before you invest in IV.
Okay. Dr. Rasner, the next one. Excellent lecture. I actually was in the class ahead of you at Penn. Just a comment. Trust is the key both with staff and patients. And this is from Dr. Pressner, Penn of class of 79. Okay. And then your next one. In your opinion, Dr. Rasner, how long do you think it would be till we can reopen?
All right, I'm going to go out on a limb. 6 weeks to some level, 6 to 8 weeks from now. And you need to know, whoever asked me that,
That was
I'm a
Dr.
working man.
Silver. Sorry.
Dr. Silver, I am a working man. I am not the guy that had 12 weeks a year vacation. This is killing me. So I don't say that to you with any anything but remorse. Somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks is how I feel. I'm in New Jersey. I'm in southern New Jersey, but I don't think the government's going to distinguish us because all those cases you hear about are 2 hours north of me. So maybe something will open in some parts of the country like Washington sooner than that, but that's my opinion.
Okay, the next one's from Dr. Ahmad. How will your treatment plans change and what kind of verbiage would you use?
I want that doctor to write to me because it would be a disservice, because that is such an important question, that it'd be a disservice to the rest of you for me to answer it quickly. Here's a 20-second answer. I'm so comfortable going through the comprehensive care approach for the benefit of the patient. And it is. And even before this pandemic became a thing, I would tell you that patients, and you got to understand, I'm not in a highly advanced economic or educated part of the United States. I don't want to, I'm not saying that to disparage my community, but we are where we are. And there's a lot of people. I mean, USA Today ranked my town, my area, my region as the second worst place to live in the United States years ago. And yet I've had a fee-for-service, high-end practice for 39 years. And when I'm surrounded by corporate dentistry options, when I'm surrounded by low fee-for-service options, it's a lonely road. But I can tell you, as I mentioned in this podcast, that I only had a couple years in my career that were down years. And not to disclose more than I need, but I alluded that it was one of the recessions. It was a 2009 recession. But I also had lung cancer, which took me out of my office during that time. So, you know, I'm telling you that God, I forgot the question. This is like I'm lecturing again.
How will your treatment plans change?
Oh, there'll be probably more alternatives than I'm used to giving. And that's not to get the case. I'm going to deal with my patient on the level they want me to deal with them. But I want to make it clear that I'm not going to compromise. Like if I tell my coordinator they need scaling and root planing, they have class 2 perio, I'm not going to be okay with doing a gingivitis scaling. I'm not going to be okay with that, no matter what else they need. That's what I mean by a line in the sand. I'm not going to be okay with other oral pathology that I think is dangerous to this patient. Like sometimes we see a periapical lesion that might even be a scar over a tooth that's been there probably for years, and a seasoned clinician can see this as opposed to well, that doesn't look very good to me. And even maybe there's soft tissue evidence of that lesion. I'm not going to be okay ignoring that either, even if it costs me the patient. So be sure to write me at my name, Dr. Rasner, AOL, and I promise you, you'll get a serious response from me. And anybody else that wants that answer.
Dr. Rasner, your next question is recommendations to be a better leader for a team as an associate, as the main dentist in my practice, especially during this time, and any CE that you would recommend. Again, this comes from Dr. Ahmad.
So Dr. Ahmad, again, when I say to you, I'm going to ask you to write to me, it's only because I have a number of books, most that were worthless, on leadership. And I don't want to just espouse the 5 books on it. There's some really good ones. And there's a lot of BS out there when it comes to leadership. That's my opinion. I mean, the 2 qualities of a leader right here in front of you right now, no, I don't mean me, I mean just to talk to you, is communication and truthfulness. That's the truth. Being visible now is really important also. Because I say that to you because it's hard to communicate when you're a little down. And you know, I wake up, I don't feel like doing phone calls to all my team members every day. I am getting stronger by it, by the way. And you know, it's hard. It's hard to have a meeting every morning when we're back in the office and acting like things are normal. You're going to need to do it more than ever. Leaders don't point fingers. Leaders find solutions and can keep an even keel. I'll find you some books that help me.
Outstanding. This one comes from Dr. Michael Nardi. Does malpractice insurance increase with oral sedation credentialing?
Great question. No, not for me. And not only do I do that, I do advanced procedures that are concomitant with my oral sedation. I mean, we do a lot of oral surgery in this office, which is why I had to go in for the emergency, because I had 7 patients that needed suture removal that had waited 5 weeks at that time. So no, let me tell you something. There is no skill. I wish there was, but there's not. Not 6-month ortho, not implant dentistry. I'm not telling you not to be good at that, because you have an amazing program right now in your backyard if you're in Washington with Dr. Yasin. And I play a small role in that as well, but that's a great program. Look, my triad of success I could go on all day with this. My triad of success for the average dentist is this. Like, in other words, what's the 3 steps to reclaiming what you signed up for when you were in college and said, hey, I want to go to dental school one day because I want to blank. You weren't thinking you want to work for somebody else at that time, unless it was public health and you love that kind of a thing. You were thinking you want to reinvent dentistry at your level and do it the way you want to do it. And the quickest road to that is, number 1, an oral sedation permit, because it explodes your phone. I'm telling you, it does. I don't care where you're at. I have followers all over the world that can attest to that. But you're not done there. Then you got to become really proficient at atraumatic extractions. That simply means taking teeth out without putting your knee on their chest. And there's a great course right there in Seattle given by me, also given by Yasin, has a takeoff on it, and which is very good, I'm sure, on how to do it, because that's a very learnable, quick, learnable skill. And I'm not talking, doctor, even about wisdom teeth. I'm talking about specifically every other tooth, 2 through 15, 18 through 31, and then the third skill is site development. In other words, bone grafting around those extractions and implant dentistry, surgically and prosthetically. If you mastered those 3 skills, of course, you have to know aesthetics, you'll be set for life. That's how I've been able to do it in this region that I'm speaking to you from right now that has been so compromised for me. I don't do full mouth veneer cases because I don't have that kind of clientele. But there's always clientele for people that are scared of the dentist and they're scared wherever community that you're in. I guarantee it. They just don't know about you yet, but you can market that.
Okay, Dr. Rasner, it says, do you use nitrous combination with triazolam in your office? If not, why? What about Valium the night before appointment? What's the benefits of using Atrodox? And this came from Anonymous.
Okay, so the answer is this. Absolutely, I should have said it, but if you write to me, it'll be in the protocol. The 3 pills I put on the screen put the patient at a certain level. The nitrous takes them higher if you need them higher, or of course, if the impact is significant, you're only going to use oxygen. It is incredibly an important adjunct, and the 3 pills by themselves won't work. Number 2, won't be effective, as effective. And if I was in a situation, it is the most important skill set, in my opinion, you could ever add to your armamentarium. I would even purchase a portable unit of nitrous if I was an associate, because if my boss would not put nitrous in the office. You absolutely will have a much more profound impact with nitrous. I have not found the need to give them Valium the night before, but I don't think it's a mistake. Remember, that drug I gave you, the drug combination of Benadryl, Atarax, and I know they're both antihistamines. Atarax has an anti-anxiety component to it. Benadryl just makes them sleepy, which Atarax also does. You add the triazolam to that, and it is unbelievable, excellent outcome for you to put patients in a state that makes dentistry absolutely pleasant for the patient and for you, by the way.
This one comes from Dr. Steve Woodall. Is there a need to charge for monitoring of oral sedation or not?
My first answer, Val, is that I think we should do another podcast after you do the next 11 on oral sedation. Okay?
Got it. Perfect.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, I don't charge them. Is that what the question was? Do I charge them?
Yes. And if there's several of them that are asking, do you charge for oral sedation?
I absolutely don't charge. The benefits of case acceptance are so extraordinary. The 3 pills cost $8. I've looked it up. The nitrous obviously is the monthly nitrous charge to my office. If it's $1,000, I can never come close. It's the only, let me tell you something. If you heard me speak, you would hear me say that free is the worst marketing word a dentist can use. It's a terrible word because it brings in the wrong patients. But if there's one thing I will tell you, but I don't heavily market. I do. I say no cost sedation, so that's not true. It's so worth, you don't know the return you're going to get. I am telling you, I've been doing this for 22 years. I've shared it at this point, probably with thousands of my colleagues. It doesn't just work for me. It's profound. And I don't, plus, you know what? I joke in my seminars, I would pay them to take it because that's how pleasant it makes my treatment. It's I don't have patients going, ooh, ow, or the other when I'm anesthetizing them. It's a beautiful thing. And that's why I have a little hair left.
Well, Dr. Rasner, you're getting a lot of thank yous in the Q&A box. I'm going through trying to field the questions. They're very appreciative for your time today. And again, I'm going to just check the chat box because it looks like we may have a couple coming in there.
I have the time, unfortunately.
Just mostly comments. And could Dr. Rasner, just one more time, could you please repeat your phone number that you want them to use and email?
Well, my email is my name. It's so easy. It's Dr. Rasner, ner@aol.com. Don't judge me by the AOL, please. My advice is current. My phone number, I'm trying to find. Hold on 1 second. I have it. 800-337-8435. And before you say goodbye, I want to, the Washington AGD doesn't ask me ahead of time to say nice things about them. They don't have to, okay? They are, you guys, as I said, I don't know if you were on the line, Val, when I said this. You guys are the New York Yankees. I don't even like the Yankees, but they're the stars of baseball. And you guys are the stars of continuing education. And
Wow.
the residents in your nearby states are fortunate. And quite honestly, I'm proud to be associated with you, as I'm sure the other speakers are too.
We so greatly appreciate you, Dr. Rasner. And like Dr. Hess has mentioned, Dr. Raz is coming in for an oral surgery class on atraumatic extraction in August. He
Which
sells
is sold out
very-
every year, by the way.
Yeah,
Yep.
he sells out very quickly. Not a lot, just in his mannerism, he gives 110% of himself while he's here. So we greatly appreciate everything that you do for us, Dr. Raz. So you're getting a lot of comments. Thank you, thank you. Outstanding webinar. Thank you for the advice. People are asking how they review this webinar again. I will be uploading it onto the Washington Academy of General Dentistry's YouTube site, so check it out there first. It will be posted up on our social media accounts as well. And then we will round it out with Dr. Raz to get him back for his sedation. If you're so generous with your time, Dr. Raz, we'll definitely do that for you.
Sure. And don't forget my podcast, The Lion-Hearted Dentist, because I have a lot of stuff on that too. And it's just the way I talk to you like I'm talking to you now. I don't know how to be any other way. So that's it.
All right.
Well-
Thank you, Dr. Rasner.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Dr.
Dr.
Hess and everybody else. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Val.
guys.
I'll put up the slide deck here so people can see our upcoming webinars, and it might answer some of the CE questions that they have. So I'll share that for the next 5 minutes or so. People can use those QR codes to sign up for upcoming webinars. So here we go. All righty. And are you seeing that there, Val, just fine?
Yes, I am, Dr. Hess. Thank you.
All right, just a reminder, CE will be coming to the email you registered with in the next day or so. Please save a copy of that email for future verification if you need that. If you would like to become a member of the AGD, this QR code will take you to the Academy of General Dentistry website where you will be able to register. For those of you that are only a year out of dental school, I believe the first year dues to be an Academy of General Dentistry member is like $78. So very, very good value. Please let others know about our Washington Academy of General Dentistry Stay Home, Stay Healthy CE series. All are welcome to attend. Your hygienists, your assistants, your front desks are welcome to attend as well. Again, thank you to our sponsors, University of Washington School of Dentistry, CE, Pierce County Dental Society, Seattle-King County Dental Society, Snohomish County Dental Society, Comet USA, Patterson Dental, and the Canadian Academy of Restorative Dentists and Prosthodontics. Thanks for joining us. For those of you from Texas and California, welcome. We invite you to continue viewing our webinar series here over the next couple of weeks. If you have a speaker that you would like us to ask to do one of these webinars, please drop us a line and we'd be happy to reach out to one of those speakers. So lots of good webinars left this week. I think we've got 11 more webinars to go here before Friday. That will keep you busy and it'll keep you up on your CE responsibilities. So We've got tomorrow, we've got Kevin Queechin, we've got Judy Kay, and who else do we have? Oh, it slipped my mind here, but the slide deck will be coming around. We just added Dr. Michael Fling in to do a webinar. This is going to be a fun hands-on webinar that you can do at home with some drawing exercises that he'll lead us through. So looking forward to on Wednesday, the Brays will be doing an update of COVID-19 and what we should be doing from the SBA loan standpoint and other topics. So those have been really well attended. We look forward to the information they're going to be bringing us again on Wednesday. That's 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Dr. Leanne Brady tomorrow. This is an awesome lecture. Please, please sign up for that webinar. You're going to enjoy it. So with that, we'll let the slide deck play here through one more time, but I just want to say from the WAGD, stay home, stay healthy, and thank you for your attendance of this webinar today.